So, today I want to talk about why it's so important for women to feel safe in their own lives. And just saying that line, like people think, oh, well, of course, yeah, everyone needs to feel safe in their life. But there's so many layers to this that I don't think most people realize. And there's actually very much a deep subconscious layer to this. So I want to unpack that and give a better understanding about how we can create safety. Because here's the thing. Becoming securely attached is not just about finding the right partner. So, secure attachment style is actually a way of life. It is the way we show up in the world. It is the way our nervous system feels. It's the way our brain functions. And it's the way that we interpret the world as we experience it. And so, women have been conditioned forever. They've been very vulnerable. And so they've had to be aware of their surroundings, be aware of the people they let in their life. They are very sensitive to what's going on, people's body language, their mood shifts, all of that, because it could drastically impact them. And so women's anxiety tends to be even higher than men's in some cases because we're conditioned this way and we are trying to find safety. So on one end of the spectrum, you've got, I'd say, the movement toward the trad wife, right? The wife that just has the husband who is so capable and so able to take care of her, and she can have a soft, easy life. But you don't hear women saying that much over the age of 30, because women who've been in marriages and are over 40 or beyond, they know better. They know that's not the deal. You don't just get to have a soft life because you have a husband that provides financially. You are subject to the unspoken agreements in that relationship. And because there's such a big power dynamic shift, there's an imbalance, there's a lack of respect, there's a lack of autonomy, and it actually isn't something that feels all that safe because you've kind of been stripped of your power. Now, on the other end of that spectrum, you've got the case for the hyper independent woman who does it all, knows it all, has it all, and she makes all of her own money and everything in life is fine and she doesn't need anybody at all. Now, in that scenario, that doesn't represent secure attachment either necessarily because community matters, connection matters, all the needs she has that maybe aren't financial, they still matter. And so what happens is you get out of a marriage, let's say you're recovering from a bad breakup, a divorce, or something, and you're trying to start over and you're trying to implement the things you've learned. Okay, well, I don't want that again, and I don't want this again, and I want to do this different. But you're battling against your subconscious mind the entire time because the subconscious mind is running over 95% of everything you think, feel, and do. So, in my work with hundreds and hundreds of clients, I have seen this. I have seen very successful women who are very financially stable be the most fragile in relationships because the subconscious programming is causing them to make decisions out of neediness and a desperation to feel safe. So your subconscious mind and your body is also working for the same goal of feeling safe in your own life. But oftentimes the way that they go about it isn't actually very productive or healthy because they're going off of old programs. So the old program that said you have to behave this way and do this thing to get love and affection and connection is not a very well-informed program. It doesn't see the big picture. And so what happens is you can get out of a relationship and women can find themselves hypersexual, and it's in an attempt to connect very quickly and secure that attachment bond and secure the safety of this other person so they're not alone. And even if they don't know they're doing it consciously, it's a subconscious thing that's trying to keep them safe. Now, on the other end of that, you can have the person who says, I'm never going to date. I am never going to have a relationship. I'm going to, do all the things and take care of myself. And that's not a secure attachment lifestyle way of living your life, because you do need other people, even if it's not a romantic relationship, because sometimes it's not. But you want to operate from secure attachment because of what it does in all aspects of your life and in your nervous system. So there's two components here. Your nervous system has got to be calmed down, slowed down, and feeling safe. And the subconscious programming that's driving all of this underlying stuff needs to be reframed so that it doesn't operate on the old system. And so a lot of times what the subconscious does is it feels like, if I can just feel like I belong, I'll be safe. And if you think about it, like think about when people lived in tribes. They had people to share the workload with. They had people to help with their kids. They had people to help, build shelter. They were all kind of in a team. But if you got thrown out of the tribe, you would be very, very vulnerable to animals, to other tribes, to all kinds of things. And so oftentimes when we're connecting in a way with an intimate partner, just that sense of belonging, that deeply rooted sense of belonging, like I need to feel safe. I need for this tribe, whatever it is, even if it's a tribe of two, to accept me, to want me, to choose me. Because if they don't, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be attacked on the outside. And so it's very old conditioning and old subconscious programming, because as humans, we're very, very vulnerable. Like we don't walk the same day like a horse, right? Babies are very needy, and they're needy for a very long time, years. And so it's ingrained in us that if we don't have our primary caregiver's attention, if we don't have connection, belonging to the tribe, to the caregiver, we're going to die. And it sends off every alarm and bell and whistle in our body. And so we do everything we can to stay in their good graces so we literally don't die. And then we carry that into our adult life and we start implementing these things in our relationships. And so there's really three areas that everyone needs to feel like they've got some stability and health in. Now, the first one is financial. If we look at like Maslow's hierarchy, we see like our core needs, food, shelter, these kinds of safety things are first and foremost. And financial stability is that. Financial stability means we can put a roof over our head. We can make sure we have food. We can make sure our needs on at least the very basic level are taken care of. And then we've got our relationship and connection needs. Now, this is the part that needs a tribe, that needs someone to lean on, that needs to have some teamwork. And then we've got the aspect of our health and wellness. So these are the three areas of life that need to be well cared for us to feel safe inside our own life. But if you're anything like me, you probably, if you're divorced, then you left that divorce or relationship not knowing what you could believe anymore, not knowing what was true. Having someone who you thought was your best friend, who said all of these things, agreed with all of these things, and all of a sudden they're just totally different. They betrayed you, they cheated, they left without notice, they like all these things that just pulled the rug out from under you. Or you were in a relationship where someone did all the things on the outside. They checked all the boxes of like, well, they're thoughtful and they're kind and they do things around the house and they certainly help do the dishes, but they were passive aggressive. They said underhanded things to you that cut you down in little ways. They were critical of you, and it wasn't all the time. So you're kind of unsure, like, oh, I guess they're not like that all the time. But over time, it's like a slow chipping away at your soul. And you leave that wondering, who can I trust? What's real? Where do I belong? And so there's sort of one of two knee-jerk responses that happen when you're trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. And you also have all of this old programming. So you either freak out and go hypersexual, hyperconnected, and you think subconsciously, deep down underneath it all, that oh, I wanted it. I really have this great sex drive or whatever. Maybe you do, but you're acting on it in a way that doesn't make much sense. It's too early. It's too soon. You don't know that person well enough. You don't know that they've earned access to have this level of intimacy with you, yet you're entering into that because somewhere very deep inside, there is an old belief that this is what makes you valuable. This is what makes you worthy, especially as a woman. This sexuality, this beauty, this whatever it is, this is what keeps you safe in a relationship because it would keep you safe in that tribe, even a tribe of two. And so it's almost like this is my insurance policy to make sure I keep this attachment, to make sure I stay safe, to make sure I'm not in this alone financially, to make sure whatever. And then you've got, the other response of like, I don't need anybody, I don't want anybody. Now, the interesting thing to me about this is that both of those choices keep you in a perpetual loop of disappointment. Because the person who acts sexually really quickly, now they've got the chemicals in their body, all the oxytocin, all of that stuff going on, and they choose to almost unconsciously project who they want that person to be onto them, and now their expectations of that person showing up in a perfect way, in a healthy way, are so high that when that person doesn't show up that way, they are just shocked. They are just, I can't believe it. They said they would never do this. They said they would be there for me. They said whatever. But here's the problem with what people say, it's just words, it's not actions. So then they get heartbroken all over again. And then they go, I'm going to do it different. And the next time they step into another relationship, same thing happens. Too much physical connection too soon, or too much trust given that wasn't earned. And again, they're back in the same boat of, I can't believe this person did this. Nobody's good out there. There's no good people. There's no good men to date. There's no like everyone's awful. And then they try again. Like it's just this perpetuating cycle. And it creates so much damage. You are getting so much more damage from that letdown over and over and over if you're repeating the cycle. And you're losing faith in your own judgment. You're losing faith in your own intuition. And the reason it's all happening is because the subconscious programming based on fear and a need for attachment is calling the shots. Now, in the hyperdependent model of I don't want anyone ever, you are overfunctioning, you are carrying too much, you don't ask for help, you don't ask for support, you're not part of a community, you don't have a great friend group, you aren't willing to express your needs to those friends when you do need some help. And that leads to burnout too. And so then you are angry and resentful, and that's not healthy either. So, what being securely attached is being so tuned in with yourself that you are aware of what you're feeling and what you need. You're meeting your needs in real time. You've calmed your nervous system, so you're not panicking in your actions. You're clear. You're clear-headed, because when we go into fight or flight or freeze, fawn, any of the panic modes, what happens is the blood in the frontal lobe of the brain gets pushed out into the large muscle groups, preparing us for something, and it leaves us with brain fog and we aren't making good decisions. So a very big piece of being securely attached in your attachment style is a calm nervous system. Because if you have a calm nervous system, you can think clearly. So even if that old subconscious programming is creating this like inability to have a boundary around sexual connection or whatever, you're clear-headed enough to reason with yourself and say, no, I have these rules for myself that I've set. And even though my feelings are real, I know they're not fact. And I'm willing and able to stick to my boundaries so that I can give it time. So I can see if there's actual trust here that's being built, so that I can determine the character of this other person and not just what they are trying to show me. And what I see is so many women just so burned out. Some have totally given up on dating altogether. Who can blame them? Some have moved quickly from one to another. And all of this is an attempt to stay safe. And in reality, we've got to be able to build out a life that feels supportive of us. We have to build our tribe. And it's not something that's easily done because people are very disconnected now. They're isolated, they're at home, they're on their phones, they're not out doing fun things together. And it's part of the reason I am very soon planning on spending a considerable amount of time in Europe, because these communities are more about community. They are less about work, and they are more about having a lifestyle that is connected to other people, that is healthy, that is supported in a community setting. And it's something that, especially in America, we really have to work hard to do. And when I work with my clients, we do a couple of strategic things. First of all, we learn how to calm the nervous system, because if we don't have the nervous system calm, we're not really functioning clearly anyway. And then we reframe those subconscious programs with hypnotherapy, because those deeply rooted things, they're calling the shots whether you like it or not. And your willpower is not strong enough to stand up to that. And then the third part is implementation of showing up in the world in a new way. It is stepping into your authenticity. It is being the warm, genuine, loving person that you are. But it is also functioning with boundaries and communication and letting go of that fear of judgment or rejection. If you happen to have a boundary that someone doesn't like, and so instead of just going, oh, I'm not going to say anything or do anything because maybe they won't like it, maybe I'll be rejected. Instead, when you're secure, you are communicating that lovingly, kindly, maybe not perfect every time, but you're showing up in the world in a different way. And it requires all three pieces: the nervous system work, the subconscious work, and then the intentional implementation. And this is what I'm doing in my newest program, the Secure Self Blueprint. Right now, it's just for women. I'm going to do one for men very soon, but it's doing all three of these pieces and creating a community aspect within that so you have support, because we are not meant to do this alone. And if we're going to thrive, if we're going to have the life we want, if we're going to recover from the trauma, from the heartbreak, from the betrayal, from the emotional abuse, from the belittling, from the neglect in our childhood, if we're actually going to recover from that, we have got to do all three. We can't just say, oh, time heals everything and it goes away. No, it doesn't. Practice makes permanent. So if you are still mentally practicing these beliefs and these behaviors in your head, if these are still your self-protective functions that you use when you feel afraid in a relationship, it's not going to heal you. Time is not going to get you to where you want to go. A very strategic path is. And the reason I know this is because I did it. I ended a 17-year marriage without doing the healing work, still in fear, still scared, not sure, vulnerable. Entered a second short marriage that was the worst experience of my life. So much meanness. I'd never in my life truly believed at the core of my being, this man hated me. Everything in his behavior, even though sometimes he was loving, the amount of criticism and belittling just equaled no other conclusion. This person hates me. And there are a lot of women in marriages that feel that way, and they don't share their feelings or their thoughts with their spouse anymore because they're met with mockery. They're met with maybe not even being answered sometimes, totally being ignored like they don't exist. And so all that damage, you've got to be strategic about healing it, or else you're going to make another mistake. And I know, because I did. And then I had to get really strategic about the healing process. And everything that I've done, I've been able to hone into exactly what works, what doesn't work, what needs to happen first, what needs to happen second, what needs to happen third, and it's all going in the Secure Self Blueprint. So if you'd like to learn more about that, you can check it out in the link below. And if you're new here, I'm Ketra Thompson, and I am a certified master hypnotist and a relationship and attachment style coach. And what I do is I help my clients reframe all of this on the subconscious level so that they don't just sit around rehashing it, talking about it forever, and never actually feeling better. The goal is to feel better, because the goal is to feel safe and secure in your own body, in your own life, in your own world that you've created, in your own tribe that you've built. And it takes intentionality. It doesn't just happen by accident. So if that's you, if you are like, I'm sick of feeling exhausted, I'm sick of feeling like I'm on a hamster wheel, this honestly affects every area of your life, your financial areas of your life, your relationship areas of your life, even your physical health, because your mental state of mind is what allows for health or disease. When your mental emotional state is not okay, your body starts to rebel and it starts to create toxic environments that create autoimmune disorders and all kinds of stuff. So, this is a holistic approach. This is something that is not like, hey, here's tips and tricks so that you can look like you're secure, so you can, trick someone into thinking you are, so you can attract someone that's secure. No, this is deep. This is meaningful. This is real. And this is the kind of work that affects every single area of your life. So if that's you, please don't let this year be like the last year. Don't let this be a repeat pattern cycle for you. Check it out. You can contact me through my website. If you'd like to set up a call and chat about it, you can purchase the program directly at the link below while it's at this insanely discounted price. But whatever you do, I do hope you choose to be intentional about your healing. And until next time, I hope you curate a life by your own design.